Good evening, everyone. Today we are starting our lecture of jurisprudence. It will be an introductory lecture, and I want everyone to have their pens and notebooks with them because there will be certain parts of the lecture that I want you to make notes of because I will be repeatedly asking you those questions, and that will ensure a better understanding of the topic because there are three things that help you understand and make it an engaging experience. One being listening, second is understanding, and third is making notes of the same. So if you do these three things simultaneously, you will get a better grasp of the topic overall. And for today's lecture, I want the students to write it on the in the chat box. Good evening, Preeti. I want the students to write it in the chat box whatever they are questioning, and to answer my questions I also want them to write it in the chat box. And yes, let's get started with jurisprudence. Okay. So, what is jurisprudence and why is it so important for us to understand jurisprudence? So, as you can see, our picture, our logo of Jurisroot. So, you can see the roots, and this is the tree. So, the tree part over here is what? The tree part over here is the laws that are there, and the roots that are there, this is jurisprudence. So the on the roots on which the tree is standing is jurisprudence. So in order to have the tree grow it in the fullest manner, we need to understand on the basis on which it is standing, and that basis is jurisprudence. Okay, so jurisprudence has come from the Latin word jurisprudentia, which means the knowledge of law. Okay. So today in this demo lecture, it will be a brief understanding of one topic of jurisprudence, essential topic. And this topic of jurisprudence is the topic of schools of jurisprudence. Now, what are the schools of jurisprudence? And let us understand this with a real life example. Okay, there are various schools in our vicinity for students. Okay, so every school promises us what? Every school promises us that they will give the best in class education, they will ensure the overall building, personality building of the children. So similarly, if I talk about this very concept in jurisprudence, so here it means what? It means that every school of jurisprudence promises to explain what law is in their best possible manner according to their ideology and their thought. Okay, and it is often said that if you understand the schools of jurisprudence nicely, you have really completed the topic to some extent. Okay, so yes, we'll be starting. As on this slide you can see that there are the schools of jurisprudence. Okay, so in all there are how many schools of jurisprudence? There are 6 schools of jurisprudence. Okay, there is a natural school of jurisprudence, historical school, analytical school, sociological school, philosophical school, and realist school. Now each school has one specific philosophy, and everything, all the concepts are built on that philosophy itself. All right, so talking about the natural law school, it believes majorly in morality, in divine law. Okay, it has a major content of the natural principles of law. If I come to the historical school, so historical school, customs are old enough, so they believe in customs. Historical school is primarily based that law is something that is based on the customs. Then comes the analytical school of jurisprudence. This very school we will be discussing today in some depth, but this class is a demo class and we have a limited time period. So we'll understand the school here today, the analytical school of jurisprudence. Okay. It says that law as it is, we accept law as it is and not law as it ought to be. Now, this as it is and ought to be have a very grave importance here, because if I say ought to be, I have to jump onto the philosophical school of jurisprudence, but if I am on the analytical school of jurisprudence, I'll be talking about law as it is. We believe in what it is, we cannot make amends to it, we cannot make changes to it, there is no content of morality in this law. So this is the analytical school of jurisprudence. Then comes the sociological school of jurisprudence. The sociological school of jurisprudence is a school that believes in law as a tool. Now, what will this tool do? This tool will help us administer the society. So, law is a tool. That is for sociological school. Then comes the philosophical school. And what did I just tell you about the philosophical school? I want the students to write it in the chat box to make this session engaging. Is it law as it is, or is it law as it ought to be? Okay, I will be taking those messages. Then comes the philosophical school. Yes, there is a message, and students are writing law as it ought to be. Very well said. Then comes the realist school of jurisprudence. It is made by the judges. They feel that judges are the sole owner. They believe that laws are judge-made laws are the only valid ones. So this is the realist school of jurisprudence. Now, why have I written these schools in this manner, and what importance does it hold? In various examinations, you will be asked for the chronological order of these schools. Okay. So, in this manner, this is the right chronology of these schools, and we need to remember it in this manner only. Okay. So, some people might ask that, ma'am, how can we remember the chronology of these schools? Okay. There are two. Yes, okay, Swayam Prabha, I was just going to discuss that. So there'll be two ways in which I will tell you that how you can remember the chronology of these schools. Because I feel in jurisprudence, there are two things that should be kept in mind. One is the conceptual clarity, and second, there should be certain tips and tricks, because the amount of static portion is a lot of static portion is there. So we need to remember it with these tips and tricks, because in the examination, we need to give these results. Okay, so the first word is NHASPR. Okay, so we'll divide it in two parts. First will be NHA and second will be SPR. All right. So for those of you who are comfortable in Hindi, there is one other way to understand this topic. And this NHA can be taken it as nahi, as analytical school is also known as the imperative school of jurisprudence. So NHI will be the nahi, and SPR, I want to call it the sir. Now you have to change the P with the I here, and I want you to write it with a pen right now. And those of you who are not that comfortable in Hindi, I have a different way for you to understand this chronology and remember it. So I want you all to write it down that naturally history was never analytical. What do you have to write? Naturally history was never analytical, but sociological philosophy is a reality. Now, this line will help you remember this. Now, I want you all to write this line. Secondly, during the class, I will be asking you this line again. And whenever we have the next lecture of jurisprudence, please be prepared, because wherever I'm highlighting that, I'll be asking this question. So, I will be asking that question. There is no other way. You cannot skip it. Okay. So yes, once again, I want someone to write it in the chat box for me now, that what was the tricky line that I have already told you. Yes, Suman, thank you. Yes, naturally, history was never analytical, but societal philosophy is a reality. So I want in my class that all the tricky lines should also make some sense, because without making sense we cannot remember it, or for our future exams just making vague sentences and lines will not help us land where we actually want to land. So therefore, now Moving on to the next slide, we will be understanding, we have done the schools of jurisprudence, and now we'll talk about the analytical school of jurisprudence. Okay, what is the analytical school of jurisprudence and why have I picked this school today to understand the topics better? I have picked this school because it is a very interesting yet a complex topic for the students to understand, the analytical school of jurisprudence. As I have said, just one line, you have to remember one line. One is law as it is. Okay, whenever we talk about analytical school, we believe in what it is. No changes, nothing. We have to take it as it is, law as it is. And secondly, there is one other thing I want you to keep on writing this. The second thing is sovereign, sanction, and command. Just these three words. Whenever I see a lot of MCQs, and you must be solving a lot of MCQs, whenever you see these terms, your brain should directly direct you to the analytical school of jurisprudence. Okay, it is a very interesting school, but I want you to first start with, yes, analytical school is as it is, and three words are there: sovereign, sanction, and command. Okay, so here it is written that according to, it's like maths. Okay, it is all about the structure and not about emotion. There is no place for morality in analytical school of jurisprudence. All right, so it is made by the authority, and it is enforced by the power of the sovereign. Therefore, I am saying command, sovereign, and sanction. Okay. This school is also known as imperative or the dogmatic school. Now, why? The structure is so firm, there is no flexibility in this structure. There is a command element in this set. Wherever I feel that people honestly feel that if we get command from the people and we don't have any other option than to follow this command, it is not the best suited for a developing society to have this kind of possibility to happen. But some people also compare it to the Nazi regime. But I feel that this school of jurisprudence sometimes helps. Yeah, but it sometimes helps in the proper functioning of the society. There cannot be any anarchy in this form of society. And I also, yes, every school has its pros and cons, and I, whenever we are studying this school, at least at Juris Root, I want you all to have an open mind about that school, because every school has, its pros and cons. No school is a perfect school in real life or jurisprudence. So we have to understand it in the sense that we are a part of this school right now. So we have to understand it by getting into the school. Okay. So analytical school treats law as a science of rule, not about good or bad. Okay. We are clear. We are not doing it for good or bad. Okay. Whatever our sovereign is someone who has the authority to rule over these people. Whatever the sovereign has decided is right for us, we will follow that in this school. Okay. Now, for example, I have taken a very real life example. We all use Google Maps nowadays. Yes. Sometimes Google Maps leads us to a wrong destination, and sometimes there is no way out there. There is a well, and it leads us through that well. But if I am talking about this school of analytical jurisprudence, so here what we'll do, we'll take that wrong path. If Google Maps is asking us to take that wrong path, we will take that wrong path. We don't have an option. Why? I'll go back to my first statement for this school, because here law is as it is, and not as we want to be, and not as we think of it as correct. It is as it is. Okay. If there are any Hindi speaking students who are facing any difficulty, they might write it in the chat box. I might explain it in that language as well. Okay. So coming on to the next school. Who are the, no, we are on the analytical school. Who are the key jurists of this analytical school of jurisprudence? We cannot take all the jurists and understand them in the same day. I believe Benthamite school is a different theory to study. It needs one entire day. John Austin is also a great philosopher. We need to understand him as depth. Acha, the students who are law students here, there are many law students over here. So whenever you are hearing the term heart, there is a famous debate between Hart and one another jurist. So can you write it in the chat box? Which debate is it famous for? Yes, Aarti, very well said. I would promote more students to answer here. So Hart-Fuller debate is a very famous debate. So whenever we'll be taking up Hart, we will be understanding this debate as well. So this is a topic for some another day when I can actually help you understand this debate in depth. It is very interesting. Then Salmond, we all know, and Holland also. Kelsen is famous for which theory of law? Kelsen was a purist. Yes, Kelsen was the purist. He believed as we filter water, so we only get the pure form of water. He wanted to filter law. Yes, Aarti. He wanted to filter law and get it in the most purest form. He wanted to remove all form of impurities in the water. And once we study the pure theory of law, we'll be understanding what are the impurities that he is referring to. And there are many jurists who did not agree with Kelsen, because it was not a very realistic theory of law, but still Kelsen was the purist, so we have to remember him like that. Now let's start with the founder of Positive School of Jurisprudence. Yes, so the founder of Positive School of Jurisprudence, there is a lot of conflict amongst the jurists themselves, that who is the founder of Positive School. Is it Austin? Is it Bentham? In certain books you'll find it to be Austin, in certain books you'll find it to be Bentham. But if I go with the chronology, I will give you a reason why I have written him as the founder of Positive School. If I go by the chronology, so Bentham comes first, then Austin comes. Okay, so because Bentham comes first, and on his theories, to the best of my understanding, the basis of Austin's theories has always been what Bentham has already said. So therefore, we may say that he is the founder of this analytical school of jurisprudence. And as you can read the word positive school, it is the positivist school. And why is it important? Because people should not get confused between the positivism, because the concept of positivism was given by Auguste Comte. If it is ever asked, it is Auguste Comte. Scientific positivism is also Auguste Comte, and he was a professor of sociology. Okay, so what are his ideology and contributions of Bentham? As you can see, this man enjoying the pleasures of life. So I don't think so we have ever studied jurisprudence to study the pleasures of life. But today at Jurisroot, we want to study jurisprudence to understand the pleasures that Bentham was referring to, because he believed in the hedonistic principle. We'll understand it. Okay. He was the founder of utilitarianism. Now, there are two concepts of utilitarianism. One is individual utilitarianism and one is social utilitarianism. I believe now everyone is writing, so that not everything is mentioned on this PPT. So therefore, I want you to write it down. It will help you better when you are reading it again on your own. So the individual utilitarianism is something that is related to Bentham, whereas the social utilitarian theory is related to Hering. So we don't need to get confused amongst the two. Okay. So just utilitarianism is a confusing part. So it is further divided into two parts and we have to remember them respectively. Okay. So he said that the purpose of law is to promote the greatest happiness of the greatest number, making utility the standard of right and wrong. Now, happiness in the society, whatever sort of laws are ensuring the maximum happiness of the people, the greatest number of people, something that is benefiting the greatest number of people, that is rightful according to Bentham. Now this is a simple explanation of utilitarianism theory of Bentham. Greatest happiness, greatest number. Okay, I just want to highlight, I want you all to write it and highlight it: greatest happiness of the greatest number of people. Okay, then as I said that this school of his is also known as the hedonistic school. What is the hedonistic principle? Now we'll understand it very simply. First thing is that we all want pleasure in our life. Okay, so anything that is giving us pleasure, it is good for us, and anything that is inflicting any pain, we don't like it. Yes, even though sometimes that pain would lead to something happy, but we like the initial happiness more. That is basic human nature that we all have, right? So he said that why are we forming laws? Any law that is giving us greater amount of pleasure, those are the rights. And whatever is inflicting pain will be the duties. So I invite you all to write it in the chat box that in the Constitution of India, what gives us greater pleasure and what is inflicting pain? It is a very interesting question, and I want you all to participate in this activity here with me. Till then, I'll be moving on. He was the propounder of legal positivism. Again, this is also conflicted that Austin is the propounder or Bentham is the propounder. He said that, what did I started the class with of the analytical school? That there has to be a command, sovereign, sanction. SCC, you can remember that? Yes? All right. We have to make mnemonics of everything here because this is the best way to understand jurisprudence and to retain it for a longer duration of time. Okay. He said that. Okay, there are new messages I can see. Okay. But I haven't yet received my question to my answer, that what is inflicting pain to us in the Constitution of India and what is giving us the pleasure. Please, I want you all to answer and make this class more engaging and interesting for everyone. Yes. He believed in pain is old laws. Okay. Interesting. This is the iPhone writing that. And I want it from the Constitution of India, please. We all are law students here. We can answer this question. I will definitely answer it later, but I want you all to be... Yes, rights are... Which rights, Preeti? I believe these are... Yes, yes, the fundamental rights. The fundamental rights are the rights that are giving us the pleasure. And the fundamental duties are the duties that is giving us the pain. So here, from this very basic example, I think now we will not forget this concept of pleasure and pain, the hedonistic principle. And yes, he separated law and morality. He emphasized that mixing of morality with law just will create confusion in the society. He said that there is no place for this mixing in the society. There is no place for morality. Both Bentham and Austin did not believe in the content of morality in laws. Okay. Then we talk about the hedonistic foundation we have understood. Then there is a hedonic calculus that he has. There are actually 7 factors. I have mentioned only 4 here: intensity, duration, certainty, and extent. He said that we can measure the effectiveness of laws by this calculus of Bentham. And I would like to say that I have just covered a small part of Bentham's theory today, but in our later full-fledged classes, we'll understand all the theories of Bentham in detail in the fundamentals of law class according to the need of the syllabus, and for the other courses also we will do it according to the need of the syllabus, the in-depthness. But if you want to truly understand jurisprudence to the very core, I promote you to join the fundamentals of law class for jurisprudence. Okay. Now moving on to another famous fellow here. Who is the another famous fellow here? Anyone? Yes? Sir John Austin? Yeah, very famous fellow in the Analytical School of Jurisprudence. Yes, you can see him. Sovereign is the most powerful function, and these are the people who have not followed the rules, so they have been punished or fined or whatever. Uh, Now he is also known as the father of analytical school of jurisprudence. Okay. So what was his ideology and key contributions? Okay. So I also want you to write one thing, that wherever you want to see that who will support Austin in all cases, that will be Ellen. So remember that Austin's best friend is Ellen. Okay. Yes, so that is the key for Austin. We know you'll get MCQs that who supported this theory. So if in the four options there is Ellen, so you have to go for Ellen there, because no matter what, every theory of Austin has been supported by Ellen. So I want you to remember that also. Make a small note of it. So he said that law is a science of command separate from morality, giving jurisprudence clarity, precision, and objectivity. uh, the command theory of law, he is famous for the command theory of law. Okay, so what was SCC? Please write it in the chat box so that I know that you are going along with me, walking with me in this conversation for jurisprudence. Yes. Define law as sovereign, backed by sanction and directed by a duty. Now, this duty, sovereign, sanction, he said that this is the very bedrock of what the legal thinking, the laws that were there, according to the analytical school of jurisprudence. Okay. He believed in the rigid separation. It was not a, vaguely we are separating. I have always said that Bentham and Austin, they were very rigid because there was no place of morality in law. Austin was more rigid than Bentham on this point. Okay. He said that law as it is, and not law as it ought to be. He advocated that legal study must solely focus on positive law. Whatever is said by the society, we will follow that. Will not, matlab, there is a blindfold in the people. They cannot see anything else. Whatever the sovereign is saying, I am just believing it, because if I'm not following that, I'll be scared. So that I'll be scared. Why? Because I will be subject to certain repercussions. They can be in the form of punishment, they can be in the form of fines, but there will be repercussions. Okay. They believed in the classification of law and morality. He divided into divine law, positive morality, a foundational distinction of all legal positive schools. Now, further, his distinctions will be discussed in another class. Now, I invite the students to ask me questions about anything that they haven't understood. If the mnemonic part is not clear to you, please ask me that as well. Or anything, your way of studying, any problem in the language, or if you find anything wrong, please write it in the chat box. I'll help you with it. Yes. Swayam Prabha has asked a question, law as it is and law as it ought to be. So Swayam Prabha, ought to be is which school? It is the philosophical school. As it is the analytical school of jurisprudence. It is something in which you cannot make changes. Okay, you have to follow it. You don't have a willingness, you don't have the power to bring about any change. You have to follow whatever the sovereign is saying. Therefore, if we have to follow whatever the teacher is saying, for example, I have asked you to finish this assignment by today, or else I will remove you. Okay, so you don't have an option. Have I given you an option that you can come to me, ask me, take permission for me for further due dates? No, I have not given you any option. So where you don't have any other option, that is as it is. You have to take it as it is. This is the law, we have to follow the law. No further discussion on this topic. So this is law as it is. Which is the best school according to you? I will not answer this question right now. Why? Because I want you to study all the schools of jurisprudence with me. Then I want you to answer this question, because as I have mentioned that whenever we are studying one school, we have to get into the understanding of that school. We have to support the school, we have to understand the pros and cons of the school. Okay, when will we start jurisprudence classes? So, Swayam Prabha, this question depends upon which course are you enrolling into, for the fundamentals of law or the UGC net course. So, for the UGC net course also, we'll be telling you the way in which we'll dealing with the subjects, and for the fundamentals of law course, we'll be deciding it on the number of students enrolling for a particular subject. So the greater the enrollment for jurisprudence, so if it is, then we'll start it from the 10th of August only. Any further questions, anyone? How to prepare this subject effectively? Okay, Ankita. So, I think from today's lecture, you must have gotten a gist of what is the subject and how we can better prepare it for our examination. I think all of you must have read jurisprudence beforehand also. So I think there are two facets to it. One's tips and tricks, regular revision, and the tips and tricks should be very sensible. They should talk, matlab, they should resonate with you. It should not be a vague tip that I just said in the class, you just wrote it, you'll forget it in the exam. It should be a very effective tip for you to remember this. And yes, you have to come to the class, you have to make notes, you have to revise those notes, and then with the tips and tricks and regular revision and MCQs, I think we can prepare this subject better. And yes, for the fundamentals of law students, there will be a full length answer writing practice, and for the other examination based students, it will be a MCQ based practice. Okay, I believe I've answered. Ma'am, will the fundamentals? Yes, the fundamentals of law course will help very much with LLB. Even LLM students can take the benefit, professionals can take the benefits. But I encourage LLB students to come forward for the fundamentals of law course, because here you will be very clear with the basics. And then forever the fear of jurisprudence will like go away from your life, and that will help you be a friend of jurisprudence rather than a someone who's scared of the subject. And I feel if you have understood jurisprudence well, the overall understanding of laws become better for you. The roots of the tree and the tree, you have to understand it. Fun examples, real time examples, these also help in increasing the interest of the students. Okay, thus there is one person who is writing that they were sleeping in jurisprudence in college, but today they found it interesting. I take that as a compliment. Thank you. Uh, I think I'll be ending the session now. If we subscribe, would we have one-on-one help? Definitely. As we have mentioned earlier, that weekly mentorship sessions will be there for each and every student of Jurisroot. Both the educators, Itisha ma'am and I, we will be individually talking to the students, helping them with the course, and not just the course but also their learning difficulties. That ma'am, I cannot take out time, ma'am, I cannot remember this. So we will be there. And I think I have answered all the questions now. So if there is any further question or doubt, you can always message us on our WhatsApp contact numbers. Plus, you can mail us on our official Jurisroot mail ID. And if already not enrolled, please enroll, because the early bird offer is fleeing. So I want you all to take the maximum benefits of the offer. Thank you, Priya. Yes, yes. We are also looking forward to work with all of you. I'll be ending the meeting now. Thank you, everyone. Yes. Thank you. Thank you.